Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank you to the CIDOC local organization for the opportunity to make this communication. I would like to share my screen. So, this communication brings a discussion about the process of make a benchmark tool for the management collection in Portugal and Brazil. And the agenda for today is start with the problem, then the contest, research goals, evaluation, construction process, and finally the results. When you look into this picture, this is the vision that unfortunately many museums professionals have of their collections. During the PhD research, the expression tied up was used by 2 interviews from different museums in Brazil to define what's being done in their collections management. Most of these professionals are probably asking themselves, what's the best way to manage collections? What kind of standards can be used for the best practices? The Portuguese and Brazilian museums profiles are mostly small and municipal. Most of them has department structures in line in their governance model. They have lack of financial autonomy and lack of legal personality. Most of museums depend on public money to survive and have lack or misallocation for their financial resources. There also lack of policy and standardization. National standards are documents that guide with minimal requirements for data collection, with no standards for procedures and usage of controlled terminology. Most of museums have a reduced team, lack of human resources or staff, and lack of time for everyday tasks. The ability to improve collections management is a challenge for museums in their daily lives, with an overload of activities and few human and financial resources. This communication brings parts of the result of the PhD research at University of Porto in Portugal. Completed in last October, with scope was a proposal new evaluation methodology and strategy for the collections management in museums in Brazil and Portugal, a benchmark. The main goal of the research was the development of performance indication for museum collections management, with the spectrum standard for its application as a guideline, and it aims to promote continuous improvement and control in collections management through self-regulation that can be carried out with the proposed evaluation. The specific goals were map the existing procedures in their functions in museums' daily life, to identify if there are evaluation models in the collections management in Portugal and Brazil, develop a qualitative and quantitative evaluation model for collections management using spectrum procedures, validate a collection management evaluation tool that allows the preservation and promotion of the museum, as well to assist in properly sizing their human, material, and financial resources to management collections for continuing improvement planning. To answer these objectives, the investigation was carried out in 3 phases. The first, to learn about the practice and strategies of collections management in museum. The second, to define the concepts to be used in the evaluation, and to know the context of the collections management in museums in Portugal and Brazil through surveys. The third phase was the construction and validation of the evaluation. The phase 1 was the investigation on how are the procedures in museums' daily life, and if there is an evaluation model in the management of collections in 18 institutions in Portugal and Brazil. Selected these organizations, the main criteria used were elected institutions of distinct administrative nature. In Brazil, São Paulo City, it was selected 3 museums and 1 guardianship institute. And in Portugal, it was selected 11 museums and 3 guardianship institutions. To create the data collection guide and to organize all the collected material, an adaptation of the structures of the collections management by PAS 197 by British Standards Institute, adopted by Collection Trust, was used. The methodology tools were semi-structured interviews, technical visits, and documentary survey. All interviews are transcribed, technical visits described in diaries, and all documentation related to collections management and evaluation procedures in museums were collected. The amount of the material collected consisted in 16 hours and 25 minutes of transcribed interviews, 14 descriptions of the visits, and 214 documents. In phase 2, concepts from different areas of knowledge were used to assist the construction of the evaluation proposal. In museology, the museum concept was used to define what kind of institution the evaluation will be made. Collections management concept to define the area of the museum that will be studied and which functions will be part of the evaluation. The museum professional concept to define who will be the user. And at the last one, ethics, to define what values should guide the evaluation. In information science, museum documentation concept, because it's the primary source that museums professionals will use to make the assessment, and information management concept, to understand how documentation is organized in such a way as to allow better retrieval of the information needed for the evaluation. In management, museum management concept to understand the administrative and operation body in which collections management is inserted and where the evaluation action will be direct. The evaluation concept, once it is the tool built with the qualitative and quantitative performance indicators in the way to perceive the museum's collections management. The context of museums were studied from local surveys and statistical data in order to observe what does the museum do in their daily lives to manage their collections and what are the resources they receive from the responsible institutions to guide, assist, qualify, and stimulate the development of museums. And how are the financial and human resources that museums have available to manage their collections management? From the reflection studies from the data collected, it was considered that evaluation, it should be in a bottom-up perspective from the point of view of the professionals work in museums, should assist the standardizing of procedures, should allow the use of qualitative and quantitative performance indicators, and be solved with a self-diagnosis for continuous improvement carried out by the teams. So, phase 3. This is the model that was constructed. From this model, quantitative performance indicators were construction and qualitative. This is the procedure were described. The team must choose the scale of 1 to 5 below in the different color is blue the best and the red not the best and the worst, And depend on the situation, the professional will feel developed and whether this field here value. This is the indicator where describe the documents that that has to be consulted, and this is the type of indicator, and the reference that should be national and international, and additional information. The first version of the evaluation was reviewed by the research advisor, create a new version, 1.1. This version was published on the website, this is the website, for the validation with peers in the area, museum professionals. To identify who would be the professional interested in participating in this testing phase, a survey was conducted to look for peers who could validate the tool. 139 professionals were registered, 29 in Portugal and 50 in Brazil. All these professionals received an invitation letter to participate in the discussion. This is the website. So it was created an event, collections management in museums, reflections on procedures and discussion on an evaluation proposal that was held at University of Porto in November 2019 to discuss the evaluation proposal with museums professionals. Another way to participate in the discussion, it was from the online document. They were invited to send the suggestion by email and from the online forum created for discussion. In total, 14 changes were suggested and validated. It was incorporated into the evaluation, becoming a new version 1.2. So this is the final version that precedes the name Rumo, which in Portuguese it means the direction of a ship, a metaphor for museum professionals who want to seek the path of improvement. The benchmark performance indicators were selected in order to balance quantitative and qualitative perspectives. In this version 1.2, is composed for 52 indicators, performance indicators, in which 44.2% are qualitative indicators, 34.6% are quantitative indicators, and 21.2% are both. There are 7 sections. This is the guide. This is the section 1 about ethics, section 2 about professions, section 3 instruction, sections 4, 5, 6, and 7 were created based on spectrum standard. At the end of each section, let me show here, there is a calculated average that values fields for all each procedure. So this is the value. This is the average for this section. At final here, results of the calculated average, here's the average of every section, is presented in spied chart that the professional can look and see how the museum gone, what can make it better. So, in current context of museum in Portugal and Brazil, providing museum professionals with only the benchmark assessment proposed will not be enough for them to be able to use. To contribute the management of the museum, as important as evaluation is the structure and support that professionals need to use the tool. Brazil needs more professionals. It puts a strain on the current teams with the lack of time to carry out their daily tasks without the existence of a regular practice of evaluation the collections management. In this context, it's not enough for the research to propose an evaluation. It's also necessary to propose a structure for application and other forms of support. With that in mind, a toolkit was created. It will guide the user on how to make the assessment in 7 steps. This is the toolkit that can be available with the evaluation. The second proposed action in this phase 3 is the use of collections management website forum here and social media here accounts created for this purpose to connect professionals and to create a collaborative network for the exchange of experience, knowledge, clarification of doubts, and for the improvement of the evaluation and the constant update. It also can be an opportunity for the professionals to be stronger than each other, uniting to overcome common challenges and difficulties. So, for this scenario to materialization, it's necessary to support and empower professionals who work in museums. Museum professionals are overloaded with tasks and often are only able to react to the necessary actions of daily life, having to respond to a number of activities many times greater than can be done during the working hours. There's a lack of financial and human resources to plan, standardize, and also evaluate. Evaluation support instruments are effective measures to improve the management of the museum's collections, so professionals can improve the core of the activities to bring museum to life. So this is Brumo evaluation. Can be downloaded in this website here in 2 kind of formats, and PDF, X, LS, X, and this is the toolkit. And this is a forum for discussion. The next steps that I hope is to create a working group for the tool continuous improvement and execution too, and new versions more adapted to each Portuguese and Brazilian realities. So, merci. Thank you. Obrigada.
Thank you very much. I have a question. I understand that you first set those levels for each criteria. So when you first tested the tool with museums, did you have to adjust after that those initial levels?
Sorry, I don't understand the last part of the question.
Okay, I can rephrase. How much did you have to adjust your benchmarking tool or the criteria or the levels you initially set after the testing with museums?
Most of the part about the professionals, I have to change almost everything, because this is the most difficult part to measure, make the measure to the hour of the professionals, of the quality of the professionals. So this part, I think I changed almost everything. Another parts like that follows standards, it's changed less. In total, it was 14. But most of them is about I think the professional part and the ethic part too. This part has changed a lot, because I think to me is the most part that I make a localization for the contest of Brazil and Portugal. And
yeah. Thank you. Do you plan to do something available in other languages too?
It will be good. I think it's one other step for the future. The first step, I want to make a working group. So I think for another year, trying to make it another a working group to implement and make changes about this, because I think when you put this in the daily life, you have to change. So after that, and implement, make an answer, make the first network. Yes, it could be another languages. Yes, but I think the first step is try to make a network and hope create this in forum, media, social medias, make stronger professionals, and after that, in Portuguese, it's another language. But I'm available to another proposals, because I think more professionals get together and make this available, more execution, it could be stronger.
And we have another question. What kind of source material did you find for the model? And are you familiar with the EU project MOI, Museums of Impact?
Sorry, I think I don't understand.
The first part, or we can start with the second part. Are you familiar with the EU project, Museums of Impact?
It's for the United States. I don't. You say Impact Museum.
Yeah, European Union project.
No.
Okay.
I'm not. I look for with the reference. Most of them the benchmarks that from Collection Trust, and for that the Australian benchmark. There's a lot of too. And the benchmarking, that's not benchmarking, and the American Museums Association, AAL, M, and I use most of the standards of the UNESCO, ECOM, and the national, most of this. But these impacts not. No, I don't remember the use of them.
Thank you. That's all for now.
And I will let the link for Portuguese languages if you want to know, for all that want to download the material.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And now we have one more presentation from Japan, because one of our presentations, which was by Rahel Ackermann, linked to open data and numismatics, potential in museums and in research. This presentation was unfortunately cancelled, but the presentation, our last presentation, is then from Japan by Tetsuro Komura from the Tokyo University of the Arts, and his presentation is about utilization and possibilities of art information in a data-driven society, characteristics of well-known Japanese oil painters. And he wasn't able to join us today himself, but I will play the presentation. And if you have any questions, we can just forward them to him later.